Hello. There we go. Okay. It glitched out for a second. Hello, I'm Heather Snyder, joined by Matt Scanlon, and this is the Tenfold AI podcast, brought to you by ProMode.ai, the first ever B2B AI marketing platform designed to completely replace the need for a digital marketing agency or a robust internal marketing team. Hi, Matt. How you doing?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Just dandy. It's been a hell of a week.
It has been.
Yeah, and we record these podcasts on Fridays, and it's sort of a nice opportunity to have a look back at our week and talk about all the changes in AI, the kind of market perception of AI this week as opposed to last week, and just a nice pulse point to keep track of AI happenings in general. Anything top of mind this week that has either come to your awareness or been in the news, or um, what are you excited about this week?
Yeah. So this week, I am very excited about actually Nvidia. So I was kind of looking through some recent news from Nvidia. And just to provide a little context to this, one thing that we hear from a lot of clients and prospects is related to image generation. So that's, you know, normal question that somebody would ask. Like you've probably seen something on TikTok or on Instagram. Look how awesome these images are that AI can generate. Can you generate images for my mid-market B2B company that I could use in my marketing assets? And, and by and large, the answer to that is yes, we could do that. The follow up to that is, would you approve it? Likely no, because your reference point for that is going to be all of the images that you've had a photographer take. It is going to be, if you want a person in that image, all of your coworkers, that, everybody that works for you out in the field. And in all likelihood, the person that is generated in that image by AI is not going to look like anybody who works in your company. And the reason for that is because most of the training data that is used for image generation is from pornography.
Damn.
Yeah. So I don't know if you, I don't know if you remember this, Heather, but it's been several months now since I've done it. But we were, we, we had a prospect that was in like commercial construction, specifically like road work.
Hmm.
So without giving too many details, we were talking about like, so I was trying to make an image that is like road workers on an interstate, you know what I mean, using heavy machinery and all of that. And I was able to get a pretty decent model coming out of Midjourney where the machinery, the scenery, the trees, all of that was very accurate. But the faces of the people that were in that, I was like, this is so bad. It is obvious. And it was just very clear. So if okay, well, most of the images of humans that are coming out of this, they were trained on massive, massive amounts of pornography. And so there's just weird facial contortions that are very subtle. Everybody is just like a little bit too good looking for all of it.
Interesting. So do you mean that the models were trained on like live video of pornography, or video generated, like animated, computer generated
Nope, no. So the
pornography?
actual source data would be, well, it's not exclusively. It's not like people are intentionally training these models on pornography. It is just that we need a large publicly available like data set of training information. So that would be videos, it would be frames of videos, and it would be images. And as we know, I mean, I think something crazy like maybe 60% of the internet is pornography.
Wow.
So if you're looking for massive amounts of data that could be scraped and used for training, probably 60% of your training data set is going to be from pornography.
Wow.
And so it's one of those things where it just is like, but it's not like, I mean, these aren't like pornographic construction photos, but it is, if that's what you're using to train the model, if that is the source data, then your output is going to feel off because you're,
Yeah.
you're trying to create a context around a scenario that is so different from your training data. Whereas with language, I mean, it's a little bit easier to manipulate language, right? Let's just use the same example here. Let's say you had a romance, like a 50 Shades of Grey. Okay. So I have 50 Shades of Grey and I have all of the text inside of that book that I've trained a large language model on. It is very easy to reconfigure the words in that book to output marketing content for a commercial construction company. Very,
Sure.
very easy to do. It's the same basic components. But then when you throw imagery into the mix, and now we're going to use the example, like I do kind of need a pretty representative data set in order to generate passable images.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's things like the uncanny valley, that sort of, optical phenomenon, I guess, that happens when you see something that's real but not quite real, and it sort of gives you that feeling of distrust, which is the opposite of what you want in a marketing campaign. You want to inspire trust, not ridicule or criticism. You don't want people to doubt your authenticity, so you want to be authentic in image representation of your company.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
And go ahead.
I was just going to say, so what's Nvidia doing, or will
Okay.
you get
Yeah,
into that?
I was getting long-winded there talking about the context, but
Well, that's good to know.
yeah. So that it highlights the basic challenge in this thing. So what Nvidia is doing, so they have a tool called the Omniverse, and Omniverse is sort of like developers can build tools. So Nvidia, who is a chip manufacturer that all of these large language models use their chips to train their models. Well, NVIDIA is now allowing developers to come and build directly on NVIDIA's models that they're creating, which is pretty cool. It's cutting out a pretty expensive middleman in the entire
Mm,
process, which is kind of interesting as far as the economy of AI. But I'm very interested in this open USD model that they have that is for image generation. Right now, what they're using it for is for companies to generate marketing materials for products, like product scenes. So the example I'm looking at right now is for an espresso machine maker. And so there's the espresso machine that is placed in a scene inside of a kitchen with different things around it. And unlike other image generation models, what this is doing is it is creating a background scene. So this would be your kitchen backsplash and your sink, let's say. And so then that would be a fixed image. And then layered on top of that fixed image would be the espresso machine. And then, so that's separate from your background image. And then there would be a cutting board that would be a separate image that is
mm-hmm.
generated. And then all of these things can now be layered inside one another. And then these mini generation models are handling things like shadows and uh, contrast and stuff like that. So, really, kind of where that differs from how image generation has been done previously is right now what you do is you give an image generation model a prompt and it generates that image as a single output.
Mm-hmm.
You can like tweak that, but then when you actually tweak that thing, you can't prompt it to like change the eye color. and then everything remained the same, and it would say, hey, change.
Here, excuse me.
Bless you. So if I described you, Heather, and I had Midjourney create an image of you, I couldn't say change Heather's hair color. And then the exact image that I was working with would come back with just
Right.
simply different hair color,
Yeah.
because it's doing an entire processing of the entire image. You're getting
Yeah.
an exactly new thing every time. What is fascinating about this is you can keep everything the same and then swap out components inside of a single image, which is super exciting,
Yeah.
because now we can keep, like in the example of road construction, keep everything the same, machinery is the same, and then we can just really zero in on what does this person's face look like, for
Mm-hmm.
example. So I think like passable image generation, I think, will be done using this methodology. So it's very fascinating. I don't know. I need to read more to figure out like how are they caching each of the separate components, but I'm looking at a demo of it here, and it is pretty sweet. I think
Yeah.
that we're on the cusp of this actually being passable.
That's very exciting. Yeah, if anyone's ever, tried to generate an image from a Midjourney or a Dolly or any of these other tools, Gemini, you know how frustrating it is when you have something that's close. You're like, yeah, I love this image. I just need him to have only 5 fingers.
Yes.
Can we just get rid of a couple of fingers? Or he has 3 hands. We're so close. You can do it. And then you reprompt and, try to be more specific, try to judge your prompting, and it spits out something completely different that is totally unusable. And now you're back at square one. So if this solves that would be really good.
100%. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's how and that's why it is so hard. And that, again, and that's why with Pro Mode, we're telling folks like, this isn't good today. It will be good. We know it will be figured out how to make it good. It just is not good enough today. And that's kind of like our philosophy is like, listen, if the technology is going to have a garbage output, like, we're not going to mess with it, because this is changing so rapidly. There will be a day where this is rock solid, and so we're going to wait until it is.
Right. And that's where the conversation goes back to what is the function of marketing for your company? If you are a manufacturing company, I was just chatting with one earlier this morning, packaging company, right? So they produce packaging for pharmaceutical, I think primarily pharmaceutical companies, they're producing this packaging. And so the primary function of their marketing is to build authority, to build trust, and to seem credible and competent in what it is that they do, which is a zero margin thing. If you're pumping out millions of packages for pharmaceutical pills and stuff, like you better have really good caps that are child lock. And there's a lot of specs involved in that I believe are even regulated by the FDA. It's a really intense manufacturing process. So, expertise, authority, credibility are all super important for them to convey. And, the question from a marketing perspective, without thinking of how we're doing it, is does this meet that criteria? Is this building trust? Is this building authority? And for now, anyway, the the market shows and the evidence is clear that you build trust and authority with real images, with real video of your actual people and processes. So that's what we're advising clients do. And if the day comes, when the day comes that that's enabled by AI, maybe it's inspired by some real images or some real video, and then we can mass produce more varieties from that same content. We'll definitely do that. But the tech just isn't there to accomplish that ultimate goal of build trust, build authority.
100%. Yep, it is. Yeah, and I always think and even like we were saying, if yes, we could generate images, would it get approved by management? The answer to that is no, right? So just thinking through the first, when it comes to building authority, you forget that, like, okay, the approval for these things has to go through a couple layers of a bureaucracy for approval. So even, again, we name the podcast is Tenfold AI. So if all of the sudden we're introducing things into the approval workflow that we know would come back rejected, or would even, honestly, like, if an image results in a 5-minute conversation, we're not doing our jobs. Like, if you are having a 5-minute internal conversation about one image, like, we've already lost trust at that point. Because we are really, like, when we're talking about designing promo, we are having discussions like down to the minute of how much time this thing should require of you. And so, and this will be a good segue into talking about no prompt. But yeah, like, to me, I mean, I'm less concerned about what the public thinks about what you put on your LinkedIn profile, more so that I'm like, dude, I do not want to have two departments sending emails back and forth about a fucking image. That
Yeah.
is not efficient. That is the same problem that these mid-market B2Bs have today, is that they're going back and forth about nonsense.
That's a good point. And just to add one more thing to that topic that I think is important, in this podcast, what we want to guard against is shiny object syndrome. Right. So when I think of prospects and clients who ask things like, well, does promo generate video or images, right? Will this generate my LinkedIn image to accompany this post? And we say, well, no. But what's inspiring that question is that shiny object syndrome and I think that at the root of that mentality of shiny object syndrome is FOMO, fear of missing out. I've heard of this thing. It looks cool. I want to make sure I'm not missing out on it. Perhaps my competitors are using AI generated images and they probably are not. And if they are, there's probably a lot of work going into that in post, editing and making it just right. But it's that fear of, I don't want to miss out on a piece of technology that I maybe should be using. And that's a double-edged sword, right? Because we want people to have that curiosity of AI. And obviously that's required if you're going to use Pro Mode, right? We want people to say, okay, if AI can make me more productive, more successful, amplify my business, I don't want to miss out on that. Great. But let's talk about how to do that in a smart way without losing sight of your goals as a business owner and understanding that not all things in the world of AI are at the same level of maturity at this point.
And I think this is like going back to like my business consulting and podcasting days, but I think an important thing for any organization should assign a, like, hourly rate to every person inside their organization.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes where businesses really go wrong is they assign an hourly rate to people who get paid hourly.
Mm.
They forget that if you're an executive in a mid-market B2B, your hourly rate is between $2,500 and $5,000. Okay. Like, if you are a marketing director at a mid-market B2B, like, just think about it. Your PTO, your benefits, your matching 401k, and your salary and your payroll taxes. I mean, that's a $900 to $1,500 hourly rate. Okay. You're going to have to look at and approve and request new versions of these videos and these images at a rate of thousands of dollars per hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go hire the best videographer in your vicinity, and that hourly rate is going to be a couple $100. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so, and until there is content coming out to where there's a tipping point on the hourly rate that will be dedicated to that thing. Like, right now, the things that ProMode is outputting is the time required to review it, edit it, and approve it is absolutely commensurate with the hourly rates of the people doing those activities. The minute we throw stuff like this into the mix, there is a much cheaper hourly rate to address these issues. Go hire a rock star that does this professionally, and you'll be saving money than if you're having discussions about generative AI versions of visuals. That will cost you more money in the long run. You just won't see it because it's your time. But that's
Hmm.
the most expensive thing that any business is having to allocate is the time of their employees.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I think that really helps to bring the economics of it kind of, to bring that home. And, it reminds me of a new client that signed on to Promode just this week. And in that case, the president of the company was kind of pinch hitting and writing blogs, writing social posts, sending those things to the CEO for approval when they have much more important things. I don't want to say it's not important. Marketing is important, writing blog content's important, but every person in business, business owner, salesperson understands that you have to do the things that are closest to the revenue cycle first. And then when those things are done, you kind of work your way back to the things that might yield later on, like marketing. So in this case, that president in the next year, he needs to hire and train 10 salespeople to match their goals of national expansion. So he's got plenty of other things to do. Planning for that hiring cycle, starting to interview people, sharpening his training manuals. He's got lots of more important things to do that will affect the future of that company far more than what blog is he going to write today. So
Exactly.
for them, we showed them pro mode, and he was like, "You mean I don't have to hire a marketing person, train them, manage them, risk them churning out in 6 months or a year, and I don't have to do it myself, and I don't have to pay, 8 grand a month to an agency?" Exactly. Log in here an hour a month and approve all of this content, and it just goes. Yes. So for them, it was directly a leadership time suck solution that Promode was the answer for.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I mean, when you think about that person doing that internally, I mean, we're selling against agencies, which where is a very clear like, hey, you're going to be saving like this is you're paying 20 times more than you need to be paying to an agency. And then when you talk about having an executive uh, doing these activities, I mean, now we're talking like 100x
Yeah.
improvement in time and efficiency.
And I think that that's a scenario that is happening more often than companies want to admit. Because I don't think these B2B mid-market companies, if you're 20 million in revenue a year, 100 million in revenue, the expectation is that you would have marketing sorted, that you would have people doing that. It's sometimes sort of a point of shame that our leadership are actually doing this. And they don't necessarily want people to know that because they understand it's not the best use of their time. They feel frustrated. They feel like, why the hell can't we check this box any other way? We've tried internal people, we've tried agencies. They either don't understand us, they don't stick around, or they cost too much. So it's a point of, it's like a thorn in the side, right? Business leaders, and Promode comes in and says, "Hey, we got you. No worries," offering a totally different way to think about it. And yeah, I think that's happening more often than people realize because of that sort of, I use the word shame, but it's like a little bit embarrassing.
Totally. It's very, this is really the first, I'm like thinking about this for the first time in real time right now. So I don't know if this thought will be fully fleshed out, but like, I mean, I've hired and trained like probably a dozen marketing people. So this would be just for the businesses or nonprofits that I've had. And these are just like, $20 an hour. This is not like this is small business, right? But there was an element of it that like there was so much mentorship and so much training that went into those people. And there was still a level of it where I was like, I really need to make sure that you understand what's in my head. You really need to understand this messaging. And so I still would always want to, even though I trained them, I was paying them, I trusted them, there was still an element of like, let me get eyeballs on this thing just to, for like at least a few months. I want to get eyeballs on it. Just make sure you're capturing this thing properly. And so I never really thought about like pro mode kind of is that, because there is a reason that a president is doing that. I mean, there's a reason that I'm very like particular about how we talk about pro mode publicly, because there's nuance in it. So
Hmm.
I'm just like kind of thinking in real time right now, like, okay, there's, why do executives hold on to this thing? Why do founders hold on to this? Because it is, messaging is nuanced,
Hmm.
until you've been around. If you're mid-market B2B, you've been around for 20 plus years, like all good, no problem. But when you're in the early stages, like first 10 years, you want to have eyeballs on that thing. So I'm just kind of, I'm like realizing right now, oh, that's pretty cool. Like pro mode also allows for that. And so
Hmm.
like an executive can still have eyeballs on the thing, but like you're saying, it's an hour a month, and you still get that level of like, let's make sure that we're capturing the nuance of what we do, who we are, what our values are as a company.
Yeah. And, that's, I think we were, just talking about the internal marketing hire and making them understand. And, if they're copywriting or doing strategy, like how do you translate what's in your head to that internal marketer? It is infinitely harder to do that with an agency because the person writing for you may never talk to you, not one time. And so not only does that person have to, capture your vision, but they have to do that through the game of telephone, often short emails or 15-minute calls internally within that agency to translate your vision as a founder. This is your baby. This is a company you've built, to translate that to perhaps an outsourced copywriter or someone within the agency who just started yesterday. They don't know you from Adam. So, are they going to hit the mark right away? Or are we going to be in that long approval process where you're going to get a blog or a social calendar and now you're a full-time editor of
Mhm.
agency content, you know? So, and this, particular company who signed on to Promode this week, they have been through every one of those scenarios, internal agencies. And it was really cool because we were able to do a custom demo for them, showing them what their promote content will look like compared to, I think in their case, we took a post from their social and we were able to recreate that with Promode and show them this is roughly what you're going to see if you would have generated that with Promode versus writing it yourself. And it was an instant decision for them. They're like, absolutely. Because for them, if it's as good, it doesn't even have to be worlds better than what the president was producing himself, because he did a fine job. The volume wasn't great because he's busy, but the quality was good, right? So if we're able to keep it at that level of quality, but take it off his plate, it was a win for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that experience of, like you do a status update. Like I know obviously I know who we're talking about right now, but, like to me, the request was to view a sample of content, but to me, like the real home run is, okay, I'm just like, you do a status update, you type shorthand, no punctuation, whatever, upload the image. And it's not just that you see a post that looks like that one post, it is that a feed of every channel with unique content tailored to that channel. It's not a mirrored post. It is, to me, that's the real thing, is like, oh yeah, by the way, 60 seconds just passed and here is all of that. What would that take you? I mean, what is that? 90 minutes of your time? Or you're just copying, pasting the same thing from every channel, but still you're logging in. You probably, maybe you don't have a login for something on your desktop. You have to get it on your phone. Like
Yeah.
that to me is the thing of just, this is just insanely efficient.
Yeah. Well, I think this segues nicely into no prompt because you mentioned, you type a few things into a status update and Promode is a no prompt platform. But in my conversations with prospects, I'd say it's about 50-50 ish. Understand it versus what the hell is that? So I think it'd be fun to talk about what is no prompt. What are some other examples of no prompt? How can folks sort of grasp that? Why does it matter? All that good stuff.
Yeah. Actually, can I flip that around on you? I want to make sure that because this could send me down a rabbit hole that we don't end up
Yeah.
with. So I want to flip it onto you real quick, Heather. So talk to me about your prompting experiences. Have you experienced like the rabbit hole prompt where it is like you give, maybe when you first started using Chat GPT or Gemini or something like that, you would give it something and then maybe didn't get back what you wanted. And then you just kept trying to be like, how do I get the thing that I want out of this? And it's just not quite. Have you had any experiences like that?
I'm trying to think. I don't know if I have exactly had that. I think when I've certainly gotten value from the rabbit hole, meaning like I understand that your first prompt shouldn't usually be your last prompt. Like if you're really wanting to accomplish something like what was I doing recently? I don't know. I think I was doing some research for Pro Mode and just kind of putting some thoughts together and you get one answer and then you want to dig a level deeper. I think what I did, I remember, yes, I was having it write cold outreach campaigns. And so in that case, I started in my GPT that is trained for the Promode brand voice. And I asked it, I said, ask me what you need to know to write a great cold outreach sequence. And then I told it what framework that sequence should be in. So there's several different cold outreach frameworks. I think you were sharing some of those with me. And so it wrote that sequence based on my answers to its questions, in addition to the framework that I provided. And then I didn't love pieces of it. And so I said, okay, make it more rebellious and irreverent and provocative, kind of the things I wanted to lean into. And then it reworked it like that. So I don't know if I've experienced exactly what.
But you answered the question
Okay.
perfectly. So like what you did as a GPT super user is you said, "Hey, actually, you prompt me.
Right.
Your your first thing that you went to was like, "Hey, double check my intent."
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what I mean? You probably self-aware enough to know like, mm, do I have a clear intent of what needs to go in this? And so then what you were effectively doing right there is you were telling that model to train you first.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, train me on my intent, help me build the prompt uh, based off of how you think. How does this LLM think? It knows how it thinks. And so you're saying, okay, like reconfigure my thoughts to match yours, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
The models
Yeah.
aren't designed to do that. Just so you know, the models aren't really designed to do that out of the box. The
Mm.
models are designed to infer what might make you happy. And you know enough to know, like, well, what makes me happy coming out of this might not be the thing that works for this particular scenario.
And that's exactly what I was going to lead to is I felt confident doing that because I know what excellent sales copy should look like. And, I'm a professional salesperson. I get better and better, but I'm no slack in that department. So I have studied hundreds of hours, what is selling, what is good sales language, what's a good cold outreach sequence. So I had a really good idea of what good would look like
Mm-hmm.
versus not good. This will be effective, or I have a high likelihood that it could be effective, versus there's no way in hell this would work. You know, if I was using ChatGPT for a different thing, and I've given this analogy before, like writing our operating agreement, right? We were engaged with an attorney, we were working with him, but just for kind of shits and giggles, I thought I'm gonna have ChatGPT write a operating agreement. Spits out an operating agreement. I send it to our attorney, who's also really keen on AI and kind of enjoys um, the AI conversation. Sent it to him. I said, "What do you think of this? I'm just curious. Like, we're still going to pay you, don't worry. But what do you think of this?" And he's like, "Well, I kind of see what they were trying to do there. Like, yeah, but they're not. There's a lot missing here that we need to put in for you guys," because he understood what matters to you and I, how to protect our interests, how to look out for promote as a company in this contract. He understood that because he is an attorney, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he understands what that should look like in the output, what needs to be included. I did not, because I'm not an attorney, right? So the quality control piece is, I think, what's probably missing from a lot of ChatGPT use when you start getting things outside of your own personal realm of experience and expertise. That's where things can go awry. And that's kind of a danger of, if you are a business owner and you have no marketing experience, you don't, I know many business owners who don't even use social media at all. They're not consumers of social media. They're not looking at LinkedIn. They're not looking at Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or any of these, because they're busy building roads, building buildings, doing hard shit. They're out there busy doing those things. They're not consumers of this stuff. So if that business owner says, "I'm going to use ChatGPT to create my social content," okay, great, but you don't have the lens. Your eye is not trained to know what good LinkedIn content looks like, to know what good Facebook content looks like, to know what a good blog looks like. When was
Mm-hmm.
the last time you read a blog, Mr. Business Owner? Which is historically why they would outsource to an agency,
Mm-hmm.
right? But of course, Promote handles that.
Yeah. Well, and okay, so the decision to make Promote a no prompt platform is based on, well, there's a lot of things. The first thing is just context window, right? So context window of the LLM is somewhat limited, but context window of the person in that moment prompting the LLM is probably more of a limiting factor than the LLM itself. So to give you an example of this, it would say, let's use a recipe, because I think recipes are really fun thing to do with an LLM, right? So recipe number one is like, give me a few Mediterranean recipes. Okay, cool. All right, what's the likelihood that the ingredients for that are in your house? Like, low likelihood that everything you need is in there. Now, change that to, here are the ingredients in my house. What different cuisines from around the world could I create with these, with all of these ingredients? Okay, cool, Mediterranean. So then here are some recipes for Mediterranean dishes using the ingredients in your house. And then we're diving in further. Give me a replacement for, what are some, like, okay, raisins? Cool. I'll use raisins in there for that thing. I mean, I don't know if that would be a suitable
It
replacement,
might actually, it
but
might work.
but you get the idea. It is, there's a major difference between give me a recipe and here are my constraints, solve my problem.
Mm-hmm.
So by making the decision to make ProMode a no prompt platform, we eliminate the human context window, which is like, in that moment, I am sitting down to generate content and I just got out of a meeting. I just had to fire somebody. We're not going to hit, like, all of these things, your context window is the limiting factor in this case,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to if we said, here are the constraints and capabilities that exist. Here are the goals that we have. Do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
No human would ever be able to articulate that in a context window in any given moment of time. I mean, a mid-market B2B company, I would imagine the president could not even name all of the constraints of the company in a moment, let alone
Right.
put language to it.
Yeah.
Now, it's just absolutely impossible to do. So by eliminating that and pre-programming constraints, programming goals, programming good examples, bad examples into it, your output will always be higher quality. I don't want to say higher quality. I want to say more useful. It will
Mm-hmm.
always be a more useful output to your goals than if you attempted to prompt the thing yourself.
Yeah. And just to, take it out of the context of marketing and pro mode and, just thinking more broadly, here's a few examples of no prompt AI: autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars. I'm looking at a list I pulled up on Perplexity right now. Self-driving cars use AI to navigate roads and make decisions without human input. So that's a form of no prompt AI. Um,
Yeah, would you would you trust a person to be able to be like, "Hey, Model 3, don't hit that person."
mm,
Would you, you know what I mean? Would you trust a person to prompt that in real time? Not a chance.
yeah, yeah. Also, some examples: facial recognition systems. These identify individuals in images or video without prompts. I mean, I don't know. Is that no prompt, or is your face the prompt? It's not a language prompt, I guess.
Right, right. Yeah.
Interesting. But let's see. Recommendation engines, streaming services, e-commerce platforms use AI to suggest content or products based on user behavior without explicit queries. We know this is true if you've ever logged into someone else's Netflix
Yes.
and you realize their Netflix looks totally different than my Netflix.
It
Well,
did.
that's because no prompt AI is queuing up suggestions based on your likes, dislikes.
Well, talk about optimizing for outcomes. Do you remember back? You may not be as much of a YouTube addict as me, but like,
I am.
okay, all right. Do you remember a time? It was not that long ago, but there was a time when you would open up YouTube and you would need to know what you were there for, what you wanted to watch, right? And you would have to prompt YouTube with the thing that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly cannot tell you the last time, unless I'm trying to figure out how to fix something, right? I cannot tell you the last time that I've prompted YouTube but I open it and it knows exactly what I want.
Yeah. And it's interesting on the journey to this point, and I'm sure that's not done. It will get better and better. But I would say, like, I don't know, 5 years ago, maybe when they were starting to use algorithmic suggestions and it wasn't quite there yet, what would happen is if you looked up a video of cats one time, well, the next 5 times you logged in, that's all you saw were damn cats, every single video, and it's like, no, that was one time, YouTube. That was one time. Don't think I'm just the cat lady now. And now it's like, no, we've taken a holistic look. And since YouTube's owned by Google, we're not only queuing up videos based on what you like in YouTube, but based on the last thing you Googled, your Google search history, what you're emailing about in your Gmail. Like, it is all talking to your YouTube algorithm now.
Yeah. Yeah. We know the frequency. We know that when you open the YouTube app, this time of day, this day of week,
Yeah.
all of these, this is cat time. Let's
Mm-hmm.
cue up some
It's
cat
cat
stuff.
time. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. My old Michael Seeley nighttime relaxing videos.
Hmm.
I'm not getting hit with that at 1 p.m., but if I'm opening YouTube after 9:30 p.m., top of the list.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So that's a no prompt AI example. A couple of others, let's see, automated trading systems. This one's fun. AI-powered algorithms execute financial trades based on market conditions without manual intervention. That happens in the finance space. Also happens in the advertising space with programmatic advertising and these algorithms and formulas that are buying ads in the millisecond, really not unlike the stock market. So these AI things have been happening for years. Uh, and it's another example of no prompt. So the human would set the parameters for that function, whether it's finance or advertising. I'm going to give you this much money. These are my goals. I want a return of this. I want this effect from this action. And I want it to, have a average cost per acquisition on the ad side or a return rate on the investment side of X dollars. So you set those parameters and then the AI carries on function without prompting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yes, smart home devices, medical imaging analysis, fraud detection systems, autonomous drones, and even spam filters. So, email services use AI to automatically detect and filter out spam messages, and which kind of had me thinking it's kind of the opposite of what Promo does in a way. Like the spam filters are no prompt AI extracting spam. Pro mode is no prompt AI inserting content
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
good marketing. Does that make sense, or am
No,
I
it makes complete sense. Well,
okay?
I think that like underlying, I think the spam is a good example because underlying that example, and especially as you've related it to promo, is it's a philosophical question of like, do we have preference without seeing something? Meaning you want something good, right? Like you want a good email, right? In your inbox. You don't want bad emails in your inbox. Could you recognize a good email or a bad email prior to seeing it? Could you describe it accurately? Could you actually write it? And I'm going to guess that the answer is no. You, Heather, as a professional marketer, you could. But what I'm saying is like the universal you, the people listening to this right now, you probably could not recognize that thing without first seeing the thing as good or bad. You could not describe a this is good content. You know what I mean? As we were talking about before we started recording. Well, hey, people want to see, can I see an example of content that would come out of promo? I would bet everything that if asked to, hey, well, okay, but before we do that, go ahead and write something that is good and then write something that is bad, like right now.
Mm,
So, like, describe the things. What are the words used in there? Or
yeah.
would you not recognize, would you not be able to assess it until it comes out on the other end of it? So, that right there is the primary reason to have a no prompt platform. If the person could not define a good outcome before they see it, why give them why even allow them to attempt to define the good outcome before seeing the thing?
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? So it's like you can hate something that comes out of promo. That's actually good. We want you to not like some things. We want you to reject things. We want you, but like we know enough to know that we're not going to give you the opportunity to define that ahead of time because you're unable to.
yeah. And that gets even more philosophical because I think of, the most the hardest question to answer is what do you want? What do you want? And every salesperson knows nobody knows what they want until they see it, until they hear it, until they feel it. Back to cold emailing, for instance. We write these amazing emails. I've done many cold outreach campaigns in my career, and um, and they work well for a certain number of people that you're sending that message to, and for everybody else, They don't work at all. Why? It was the same message. They all got the same thing. You could translate that to all kinds of other parallels in marketing, an advertising campaign, right? You sent the same ad, you launched the same digital campaign, everyone was within your targeting parameters. You wanted to reach business owners of a certain company size, of a certain industry, and a certain geolocation, and you did that. You delivered those ads to those people. Only 2% of them clicked on that ad. Only 20% of them opened that email. And of those numbers, only 5% of that took an action. Was your message bad? No, it's just that every human is at a different moment in their journey. It could have been the right target, the wrong time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, like I've responded to cold emails. It doesn't happen very often, you know. I'll admit, if someone sends me something cold, it better be really thought provoking. They better have something interesting to say, something I haven't heard before. And even then, the only reason I'm going to respond is if I have an immediate need that I've been thinking about within the last hour.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then it's like, okay, I'll throw them a bone. What do you got? And from dealing with prospects who've responded to my cold outreach, it's the same thing for them. We were just talking this morning about how we needed marketing, and then I got your email. Your ears must have been tingling. And I'm like, well, thank God thank God you were thinking about that, because the other 30,000 people I sent that message to didn't respond.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, yeah, another case for more volume. I mean, it really is like it is it like the yeah, you're not tweaking the thing that you're doing to necessarily change anybody's mind. You are figuring out who resonates with this win. That's, you know what I mean? That it is the minute you attempt to engineer that thing, like going back to the prompt, no prompt, I think the minute you try to engineer that thing, the is the minute that it becomes entirely unrelatable to everybody,
Mm,
because all you can do is like present and this is how we've built promo is we've said, all right, well, we're going to assume that everything that has come out of your company up until today has come out of your company for a reason. Okay. It has passed approval internally. It has gotten levels of engagement. There's buy-in internally. And because this has been published somewhere. So we're going to assume that this is a good representation of what you want coming out of your company. And we do that times a million, right? So that captures, okay, this is your brand. This represents approval workflows internally. This has buy-in all from intern to president. Like everything that has been published is a representation of what you want out there about your company. So now we need to put that on steroids, make it very inexpensive, very efficient, and then it is a matter of now this is a magnet and we are looking for the people who happen to be thinking about the thing at that point in time. And we are consistent, just like rock solid, consistent with the volume of this, waiting for the time and place and eyeballs to match up. Like in the example of cold outbound that you were just talking about.
mm-hmm. Very cool. I like it. So just kind of recap so far, we've talked about shiny object syndrome. Video and images generated by AI are not quite there yet. Don't waste your day on it. If you're a B2B business owner, it's cool to be curious, but probably don't, dedicate a ton of time and resources to that just yet. And then no prompt AI is a good thing. It is something to look for in terms of a feature set from AI tools and solutions, because we're removing a lot of that variable of human error, and you don't have to know what you want, because that is programmed. You just have to have the data of what's happening right now. What do I need? Just like all of these other, no prompt AI things that we see in our world today, like we've talked about. So what else in before we wrap up, anything else you're excited about or anything in the air of AI maybe for the coming week that you're looking forward to?
Like internally, or just in the world?
Well, either. I mean, I guess I can start. I'm excited. We're starting to have partnership conversations with other B2B consulting groups. I'll leave it vague and mysterious, who are using AI for all kinds of other things besides marketing. Consultants using AI for KPI modeling to help business owners hit their goals across departments, getting down to the head count of what are the KPIs that we should be looking for our project managers, for our salespeople, for our, every single role within that company. What does that KPI journey look like to get us to that goal revenue dollar number, or, whatever their picture goal is, and then how do we manage to those KPIs along the way. So we're talking to groups like that about how Promote is an excellent thing to offer to their clients who are in that journey for a myriad of reasons. But I think that's what I'm really excited about, is how will Promote be sort of a rocket engine strapped onto growth goals like that.
Yeah. I'll piggyback that actually. I did think of a thing that I'm very excited about. I am excited and surprised at mid market because it's a very interesting thing. Okay. Like Maggie and I were talking last night, and I was saying, saying how it's very rare. Most funded startups that are selling B2B, their market is small businesses, like almost always, like super low price point, like attempt at high volume. None of these startups really ever reach any level of profitability. They're just trying to get to the next investment round. And so for a startup to go to mid market is a weird path. You know what I mean? Just in the world of tech startups, it's an uncommon path, I would say. However, I'm realizing there's this very interesting thing to where, like, to set up a good AI tool, there is a setup. Like, you need well structured data. You need a lot of it. It is for how much time savings there is and how much efficiency can come from AI. There is there's a lot of upfront human work and testing that needs to go into it. And so because of that, like mid-market B2B, I mean, they're very accustomed to, if we're integrating a technology in our company, we recognize there's going to be a level of you embedding yourself into our company to make this thing work right out of the box for us. And so I have been very hopeful with that intersection of, but the reason that most startups go to small business is because mid-market B2B, they are late adopters, are like oftentimes level of bureaucratic oversight. It's like they're big enough to be able to deploy things and to make decisions and make pivots, but also they're not big enough to where they have like distributed decision makers. So I think that that's why a lot of startups don't go mid-market when they first start, because they're like, this is going to be like a level of bureaucratic nightmare for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very enthusiastic to actually see these mid-market B2Bs be open to something as cutting edge as this,
Yeah.
because it allows us to build cool ass product that is like that we could never build for a small business market. We would like no small business would pay the price tag that it would take to deploy really powerful tools. And so
Mm-hmm.
the fact that we're in this weird time in history where the companies that can afford, and actually we'll see a cost savings from using AI tools and be able to pay the price tag that is required to have a kick-ass application customized for them and working for them. To see that kind of like intersect in a way that I've really not seen before when I look back at some of the different like eras of technology, of like technological innovation. So that I am just like very surprised by and just very excited for that right there, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've been asked a few times since we launched Pro Mode, why mid-market B2B? Why isn't it small businesses? Because oftentimes when they hear the price tag, you know, $2,500 a month, everybody pays the same. The first reaction is, oh, you're for small businesses. No, no, we're working with companies 100 to 200 million in revenue, which compared to an enterprise is on the smaller side, but it's, square in the middle of mid-market in by most estimations. But why mid-market B2B? Because I love solving problems. Period. Small businesses, this is a broad brush, but most small businesses don't know they have this problem yet. They're still DIYing, they're still talking to agencies, they're still on the hunt for this. They haven't experienced the pain of shelling out the cash every single month to an agency or to an internal team, the frustration, the low performance. They really haven't been through that process yet.
Mm-hmm.
The mid market certainly has. At the enterprise level, they're already accessing this kind of technology
Totally.
at a custom level and with custom price tags. And I could have launched into that space and either gone to work for an enterprise AI solution or helped you build an enterprise solution and approach those companies with really high ticket custom solutions. But that's just not interesting to me. It's not interesting to me to make a $4 billion conglomerate that's owned by BlackRock another 50 basis points this year. It doesn't do anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather help a $50 million mid-market construction company gain market domination against that guy,
Yes, exactly.
you know?
Exactly. That is so true. It is, yeah, because you're right. I mean, in the world of small business, there are two small business owners. The one that you just described, and then some fucking savages that are training their own LLMs. That's the only two to where they're like, cool, you have pro mode. I just built that because that's what I have to do. Like there's
Mm,
no, but like to
interesting.
like those, yeah, those are the only two people in that market. But yeah, it is. I mean, because this is a world like it is a world new to me of these mid market B2Bs where that the openness to innovation has been one of the most exciting things that I've experienced. It's like shit, you guys are actually open to this, and they get it. They're all about it. They understand and like they understand the idea of customization. We're building this vector database for you in this way. They're like, cool, let's go.
Yeah. I,
That
I don't, yeah, they're not just open to it, they're starving for it.
yes, yes.
They're starving for it. And we understand, like, it's a big decision, not financially, it's a big decision philosophically. Like, we're gonna do what? We're gonna let you ingest all of our data from our all of our marketing to generate new stuff for us, and then we're gonna approve it and everything right in this portal without talking to a marketing agency. Yeah, that's what we're doing. And it's a challenge offer, right? Which is why we do 30-day money back guarantee at this point to, you can see it in action before you commit to another month or whatever. That's fine. But yeah, it's they're starving for it, and which is why and I'll brag about us just for a second. Our close rate so far when talking to decision makers within our ideal client profile, mid-market B2B companies, our close rate is 100% as of right now.
Hmm.
And I hope that number goes down, to be honest. because that will mean that we're reaching more people and starting more conversations, and that will be wonderful. But for now, just to have that validation that we're on the right track with the offer, we might be priced a little low, which could be part of why we're getting immediate yeses. That's okay. I would rather that and get the solution in their hands and reassess, pricing models later on. But yeah, I think we're on the right track with what these companies are really wanting, and have our finger on the pulse of that.
It's been, honestly, it's been like I'm thinking about just like the two clients from this week that we just started. It is like, in looking at it and setting up their portals, their databases and everything, for me, it's like, this is a dream. Like, from a product and UX standpoint, is like, this is crazy. This is a dream come true for me, because like, the quality of product that will be able to deploy, that we are deploying today. But I'm just thinking, like, holy shit. I mean, each passable new technology that comes out, like we're talking about image generation, all of these things, I'm like, we will be able to deploy incredible product at the, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, at the price point that we're doing now, I mean, it's going to be phenomenal. And for me, that really, like, kind of is a UX person's, like, just absolute dream come true. It's like, okay, people are buying into this idea, they like it, and it is deployed at a market that can, like, we can just do it right. Like, let's just do it right. We do not have to make concessions anywhere. Like, our only concessions are limits of technology. And in that,
Hmm.
so then it's just a time. It's not actually a concession. It is just a holding pattern
Yeah.
until,
But
yeah.
but we have the platform and we have the place for that new tech to land as soon as it's ready. And in the meantime, it's still replacing this really expensive, time consuming alternative, but it's fully ready to get better and better as AI continues to advance.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And I just want to add one more thing, and this will probably be just a clip that we pull out, and that's fine if you've dropped off the listening of this whole thing. But just to, kind of encapsulate how and why we started Pro Mode and what makes it so unique. My background is in marketing strategy and working within a digital marketing agency. So I saw all of the client complaints, not just from that agency. I want to be clear, because I was also a consultant for about a year and a half, talking to dozens of agencies all over the country and their clients. And so I heard many of the same problems. It takes too long, costs too much. We don't get enough out of this relationship. We can't measure anything. Like, just fall off complaints, internal turnover within agencies, client turnover out of agencies. And the whole system just looked broken. And my goal as a consultant was to connect clients, business owners, to the best agencies for them, really be sort of a procurement agent for those business owners. And throughout all that research and time spent talking to agencies, I'm like, this is a systemic problem. All of these things. The model is broken. Why am I feeling this so intensely? I don't even want to refer anyone to a full service agency. I don't even know of any great ones who do well at everything that they say they do, that I would put my reputation on the line and make that referral. How is that possible? And within other industries, I was not hearing the same thing. In insurance, legal, like all the other business functions that you would need to outsource, they don't have this same problem. Why does this exist in this realm of marketing? So, kind of serendipitously, we met, and I learned about your AI capabilities, your vision, not only for software that you're developing right now, but for the future of the internet. And those are things we can get into in other podcasts. But, hearing your thought process about these kinds of problems and combining it with my experience and what I'm seeing in the market from these business owners. And that's when kind of the light bulb went off for us. And we said, wait a minute, If we combine forces, you build the thing, I inform on what the client issues are, what we could solve to, we could do something really amazing here.
Mhm.
And then throughout that process, I was looking at other marketing AI tools and things popping up because I wanted to make sure, like, are we entering, a red ocean here with pro mode? Like, are we going to just get our faces eaten off immediately with competition? And I realized no, for a couple of reasons. One, there's not another platform generating all marketing content that is custom and of high quality.
Mhm.
Doesn't exist,
Right.
B2B or otherwise. And two, I noticed an interesting trend among all these AI companies popping up, marketing AI tools, this and that. They were all founded and ran by AI developers
Mhm.
only. In their head counts, there's not a marketer among them. There's no one with sales experience, there's no one with marketing experience, there's no one with agency experience. They're all coders
Mhm.
developing. And you know just as well as I do, if you have that piece, but you don't have the market information of what people will actually use, what they'll actually benefit from, and then the marketing knowledge to know what should it look like when it's done, what should the strategy be that's programmed into this thing. If you don't have that piece, you just have another piece of tech flying around that nobody's using.
I mean,
I'm
homie,
selling you your own company right now.
no, I mean you're preaching to the choir. I mean, like, I mean when, I mean, I left a pretty sweet gig as CEO of a SaaS company for 4 years when we started Promode, but came up against the exact realization that you're talking about right now. I mean, I was pitching a product to marketing agencies, which I kind of learned the systemic problems you're discussing there. Where I mean, this is a product where I'm saying, hey, your account managers, the lowest paid people in your organization, this is a CMS that will allow your account managers to create websites with prompts. That's like, this is a no brainer. Your $50,000 website that you sell, your your costs on that just went from $49,000 to $1,500. That's your cost on deploying a website. Sitting here promising, like, listen, your margins are going to go through the roof. This is amazing. You need to do this. Like, this is a like an AI CMS that bolts on top of WordPress. No brainer. But to your point, it is like, it is not the product. There was, well, first off, there's a systemic issue in our in product market fit. We didn't realize, okay, these people do not really care about their margins or their longevity. This is a dying industry. I
Yeah.
mean, that
Well,
was like,
they don't care about saving time
exactly.
because they sell time.
Yep.
They
Yep.
sell hours. So if you're coming in offering a solution that's going to cut their dev time by 90%, they're like, "Well, that cuts our profit by 90%." Well, no, not if you do value-based pricing. Duh. Right?
Yes, exactly. But then, and then to your point, like the other AI marketing tools out there, just like any product market fit, right? There, you there's somebody at the table. There has to be somebody at the table that understands the market, understands the problem, and you have to reverse engineer it. You can't build the product and then try to find the problem. It has to be built the other way around, 100%. You
Yeah,
know.
for sure. Yeah, so the clients of those agencies were feeling the pain of paying for hours, paying for suboptimal work, all of these things that we talk about with ProMode. They were feeling the pain. So the solution was, let's create something for the people who are in pain.
Hmm.
These business owners who are sick of paying agencies and spending all this time and money and experiencing just bad client experience start to finish. Let's solve that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the response has been awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So it's fun. Just to tease to future podcasts, we're going to have some guests on. We've kind of been building our base of content here with just Matt and I talking, give you kind of a grid of who we are, what we're doing, what our knowledge base is a little bit. But we'll be bringing on guests who specialize in various areas, whether it's, marketing, brand strategy, development, AI. It might get weird from time to time, but I think I think that'll be really fun to start talking to some guests.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up. Thank you for joining us and for watching. Again, I'm Heather Snyder. This is Matt Scanlon, brought to you by Promode.ai, the B2B AI marketing platform created to cut B2B marketing costs by 73% or more. And thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, Heather.